Maurina, unicorn status, that's pretty lofty. So talk to me a little bit about some of the core strategies that you're doing to help achieve that.
Sure. Well, I wear a helmet to work every day. That's the first thing.
Solid.
Yeah. I think there's four key things. The first thing is about leadership, and I think as a leader you need to decide if you want to be a leader or a manager, and they're two very different things. And about a year ago, I did some soul searching, whatever you want to call it. I wanted to get to the next level in my career, and I decided I wanted to learn to connect better, not only with the people that report to me, but my peers. So I decided I wanted to lead with heart and connect better and be that sort of leader. So we talk about things like vulnerability, and we cry at work, and we talk about things like stop operating from fear, things like if you're not making that decision or you are making that decision because of fear, why are you doing that? We talk about purpose. You know, at the end of the day, we all want to just be better humans. Yes, it is about marketing. Yes, it is about, taking Sumo to the next level. But really, really what it's really about is just being better humans. So as a team, we talk about purpose. And then lastly, like I talked about that, we talk about connection, right? I truly love these people on stage with me. And it's kind of awkward to say as a manager, right? Like that you love your people, but I really do. So I think first and foremost is about leadership. Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a leader? The second one I think is about language, which seems a little interesting or a little confusing maybe. It's not about communication. It's not about email. It's not about Slack. It's literally about the language you use that connects you to your relationships or your emotions or your moods. A guy by the name of Chalmers Brothers, which I thought they were actually brothers, but it's just one person, his first and last name. He wrote a book and did a TEDx talk, and he said, we use language more than just to describe and communicate, which I thought was interesting. And he has a whole load of examples. One of them that he uses is, if anybody's that's anybody out there that's married, what's the difference between being married and not being married? It's words. People speak words to you, right? And it's an act, and it changes your life. So we talk about language. Words are hard. Words are important, words are hard. So leadership, language. The third one I would talk about is process. I have this saying that is, don't let process get in the way of progress, but you don't want to sacrifice process for progress either. And I don't know, maybe there's some folks out there that get a little tingle in their tummy when I say process, like that's rules, that's a box, I don't want to be put in that.
I thought you were talking about a tingle of excitement. That's cool.
That too, I hope so. It's only going to get better from here, folks. So yeah, process, and yes, it can invoke a little bit of a negative feeling, but we on this panel feel like process actually helps with creativity. It helps give you more time. If you're doing the same thing over and over, but you're doing it differently, and you're doing it differently every time, all those little inefficiencies add up.
It's a lot of waste in the process.
It absolutely
wastes by not having a process at that
absolutely.
point.
Yeah. And it's also, you can scale and be more agile with process, and that's what we're trying to do at Sumo. And the fourth thing is fun, and that's where I insert this proverbial mic drop.
Yeah.
I won't do it, but I've always wanted to do it.
Shannon, I don't know you, Ro, but maybe I will get to know you. Shannon does not exude fun at all. He is the biggest stick in the mud I've ever met.
Yeah, we're not going to have any fun.
Zero fun.
So that's at least how I and this team are helping to achieve unicorn status.
Very cool. So talk to me a little bit about, with that, there's got to be some challenges in the organization, and I'd love to hear, what are those challenges, and then what are you guys doing as a team to help overcome those challenges?
Yeah. I think the easiest thing would say revenue, right? I don't know a company out there that's like, I mean, maybe there are, but in a hyper-growth, revenue would be the obvious answer. I'll take sort of the second answer, which is hiring ramping, but yet goals don't change. So just because we need to grow our team or teams doesn't mean that my KPIs change, and I don't get a break on maybe not hitting a goal. So ramping hiring, but also hiring the right person. And that seems so very cliche because I do really feel a lot of companies talk about hiring the right people.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed, we're a quirky bunch. In fact, Shannon and a guy on Rose's team dressed up in inflatable unicorn costumes and went to
no
work.
Fun. Zero
Yeah.
fun.
Wouldn't have guessed that one.
And came to work, and then we had a beer pong tournament, and then they played beer pong in them. It was quite hilarious. So it really is for us, especially at Sumo, especially for this team, it is trying to find that right person. We wear backwards hats, and yes, believe it or not, that is important to some people to be able to wear their hat backwards at work. So hiring, ramping, finding the right people. How this team helps is in a lot of ways. One, I'm going to bring it back to process, but documenting process. So that's everything from just processes within the team. So when we do hire somebody, they can self-serve for the most part. Shannon, documenting processes. She works cross-functionally with a lot of other teams, web dev, sales ops, so documenting those processes. Everybody's on the same page. Staying positive, which I know it sounds really simple, but sometimes it's not. It can be really hard working in not just Silicon Valley, right, in marketing in general. So staying positive is important. On the flip side, understanding that it is okay to get frustrated. We need to talk about it. We need to figure out if there's problems we need to solve. Let's do that. And then I think lastly, just being true to who you are, not losing yourself in all the craziness and making sure that you are who you are. We have a saying, it's be the youest of yous. I believe Shannon coined that term. So we talk about being the youest of yous.
Came to me while I was in that unicorn costume.
It did.
Zen moment.
So yeah, hyper growth, and then this team doing what they do really helps give me the bandwidth to find the right people and build the team.
Well, and going back to what you said about just, remembering that you're all on the same team, and when you are a hyper-growth company, those emotions can get to you. And we have this at PFO where we just have to remember that it's not, these siloed teams trying to accomplish their own individual goals, but it's a unified team trying to accomplish one goal. But that high growth can definitely put some kinks because you don't necessarily have all of the processes in place, and so people are kind of floundering about a little bit to figure things out. And so just realizing, I always tell my teams, no one's going to die. Just like, this should be our mantra, no one's going to die, so just chill out, it's fine. So talk to me a little bit about any game changer marketing trends that you're seeing this year, and how are they impacting your marketing strategy? This is like a juggling thing going.
Yeah.
She's going to talk with two mics.
Yes.
It's really
So
important.
first, thanks a lot for having us here today. We're really excited to be here, and this is my first time in Montana, and I think I'm in love.
Oh, great.
About game-changing marketing trends, we usually have this ball. It's a magic 8 ball, and anytime we have a tactic or an idea come through our heads, we're like, let's give it a shake. But in all seriousness, we do have an 8 ball, and it's sort of has been consistently accurate. But what we try to
So the
do
tip
is
that you can take away is we all need to get a magic 8 ball in order to determine where we're going in our jobs. Like it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's magic 8 balls for everyone outside. But what we really do with in terms of being game changing is we're taking it back to basics. And joining Sumo, we're a machine data analytics platform that solves for 3 use cases. That's DevOps, which is a very, very new area, security operations, and then IT ops. I had no idea what any of these were, and I'm like, I have to market to these people. I have to know who they are. So it's really taking that approach of understanding the depth of who your personas are and using some of the data and insights that are gathered from industry, from past marketing tactics. That's all really helpful. We also enlisted a market research firm, King Brown, and they did this massive survey where they really tried to understand who are these personas. In particular, the example I'm going to dive into is IT ops. Who is this person? What are they going through? What are some of their everyday pain points? What's their everyday life like? Some of those things, key insights in that story that we learn about. are pivotal in how we market and how we message to them and how we build creative around it. Before, maybe a couple of years ago, if someone were to say data-driven creative, I would have a mini heart attack and be like, whoa.
Hands start shaking.
Yeah, but it's very unique in that it's using data, being informed about your consumers to build the best creative you can for them. And I think there is a place for the both. It's the right and left brain. It's Mad Men meets Math Men. It's a lot of this coming together and really being able to coexist and saying, these are not boundaries. They're actually accelerators. So that's sort of our approach. Is we're really keeping it simple, really understanding the depth of our customer, and communicating them in a way that's very effective and that resonates with some of the pain points that they're going through. One thing that I will kind of quickly highlight is we just built a campaign, and there was a couple of tactics. One was we know about 90% of these IT ops consumers were using this one tool. So we're like, well, and we, of course, are far more superior of a product than that tool. So we said, let's go and build an ebook that highlights each of those differentiators. And that's nothing unique or new. But what we do is we follow with, okay, well, we know that this person is under a lot of pressure. Their world is changing as they're moving from one environment to the cloud. Let's give them another asset that talks about, hey, here's actually a 5 steps to migrating off this tool and coming to our product. And additionally, we have professional services like the Geek Squad. We got you covered. Just that little bit of reassurance, because we all get bombarded by emails and new tools, the new shiny object, but it's being able to cut through the noise and knowing that you don't have that huge ramping process.
Well, I like the educational component of being able to say, here is your very clear steps in order to move from here to here, because I think actually any team, is just not marketing, but the idea of ripping one tool out and putting another one in, as you said, your KPIs don't go away. And that is a gnarly project that is an undertaking, and so it becomes too daunting to think about. And so being able to say, here's the 5 steps from moving to here, it simplifies the process and puts some of that fear at ease. And that's usually why we don't make those changes, is because there's some fear in there of how am I going to get all of this done. Right. So very cool. Good.
And I'd love to hand it over to Shannon so she can tell you guys about some of the game-changing technologies and trends.
Thank you, Roy. We have a nickname for each other.
I was going to say, did you call her Roy?
I did. I called her Roy. So Siegfried and Roy. So we're a team, and she is the creative, and she's a genius, and I need to support that with the data, right? And when she came on, all my dreams came true, because you can't have left brain, right brain in the same brain. You'll lose your mind. Back to the original question. Game changer tech. I get a little nervous talking about anything that's a game changer. Translation in my mind is a silver bullet. And that's an illusion. A silver bullet doesn't exist. What you need is a strong foundation. And when you're working in these platforms, that's how you're able to take on the new trend, when you have that solid foundation. And when it comes to Sumo, what gives us the competitive edge is a well-defined life cycle. So we know across our entire database where everybody is along their marketing journey. We have a pretty advanced scoring program. We have threshold criteria. So MQL criteria are marketing qualified lead criteria before we pass anything to sales. It's definitely check, check, check. And once you have those foundation blocks, then if one of these 7,000 solutions comes along from a MarTech space, you can plug and play with it and test it.
Very cool. Thank you, Shannon. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing with multi-channel marketing? And how do you solve for that?
I think we're all going to take that one,
Yeah.
because there's more than one challenge that we face. Our top 3, when we were talking about this question, we came to data cleanliness, marketing and sales alignment, and then reporting goals, metrics, and attribution. So I'm gonna talk about data cleanliness and our process, and then I'll toss it to Maurina to talk about marketing and sales alignment. So this is a saying that I say, but I don't know if I've ever actually said it to anybody else before this talk, but there are 3 things in life that you can be sure of. Yeah, this is a surprise. It's death, taxes, and dirty data, right? So you have data coming in your system all day, every day, which means you need to be on it all day, every day. Actually, even before it goes into our system, there are 2 points where a list is scrubbed. One by the marketing or event owner, and then by marketing ops. This makes sure quality records are going into our system, and we're not spending money enriching any sort of drunk. So the data comes into our system, it's already been scrubbed. Now it's in our system, we are going to enrich it. We're enriching it so we can have consistent lead routing. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, but we're gonna give our data the best human possible chance. And then we're also marketing it for CAN spam or GDPR, because there is not a week that doesn't go by where a request comes across my desk. When did this person opt in? When did this person opt out? And I can usually answer that within 3 minutes after looking at our data. The last thing that we do is we do monthly purges, right? We've developed strict criteria around that. We run our entire database. We have 1 million+ records through these campaigns. We analyze it, and then we back it up, and we get it out of our system. And even with all 4 of those checkpoints, we still have dirty data. So it's just something that you need to be ever vigilant with, be aware of, and just, again, back to process, put the process in place.
Well, and making sure that you're resourcing it. If you have a known entity, a known, this is going to be your current state, you need to make sure that you're putting the right people to actually, manage it, own it, take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then marketing and sales, that's you.
I just have this vision of some Oompa Loompas just like scrubbing our data.
We have a lot of those in Montana.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do.
I think there is.
8 balls and Oompa Loompas. Are you writing this down?
Unicorn sumo wrestling costumes.
That's right.
Sounds like a solid plan.
Marketing and sales alignment. Wow, that's a tough one. I don't know. I don't know if anybody has ever really mastered that, and I'm sure as marketers we go through that. There's a myriad of things that we could talk about, right? And I think even on the stage before us, there were a couple of things that people talked about. The 2 things for us, one is to build credibility. And there's many ways to do that. We do that through data. So one of the things that the field marketing team does is they have a dashboard, and they use it with their regional directors every week. And it's a dashboard in Salesforce. And it shows everything from MQLs for that region, for that segment. So think Enterprise Central, Enterprise, California. So specific to that RD's territory and what they manage to. It looks at pipe gen per rep from marketing. It looks at MQLs by event. So field marketing is usually event heavy. So they want to know by event that they run how many MQLs they're producing, so they can go over that with their RDs as well. Pipeline by event, so they can look at, one of the things that we look at is for every dollar spent, we should generate anywhere between $17 to $25 in pipeline. So are we looking at that? Are we tracking toward that? Another interesting one that we have is how far did the opportunity get before it was lost? So did it get to is most of the pipeline getting to stage 2 and then going to close lost? Is it getting to stage 5 and then going to close lost? And those are great conversations our field team can have with the rep. It also sort of forms this bond, or at least I think it does, in terms of, you, Mr. and Mrs. Salesperson has to be in Salesforce. We're going to be in there with you. You have a number. We're going to have a number. You have a headache. We're going to have a headache. So it really helps form this partnership, and the credibility around data, and being able to speak to that just takes things to a whole new level. I think the second thing is repetitiveness, which sounds simple, and it really is, and I actually didn't really realize this until probably about 3 or 4 months ago. So, we have a complex process, and the handoff, the MQL definition, what an inquiry is versus what happens when it goes to remarket it's pretty complicated, and we take that for granted. So I hold what I call a demand gen AUA. AUA just simply means ask us anything. I go over 3 or 4 slides every time. It is the typical funnel. Here are the definitions. Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about new logos only. We're not talking about customers. Here's what an MQL is. Here's the definition. Here's the SDR process. And I purposely titled it sort of an AUA because it seems non-threatening to a salesperson. It's not a training. It's not a office hours.
conversation.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And let me tell you, the conversations get rat-holed. But what I want it to be is a very non-threatening, open way that sales can jump on. They know they're going to hear this spiel, and then they can, we open it up for conversation. And sometimes it's a 10-minute meeting. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, and it's completely random. When a large room is available, I'll throw 30 minutes in, and I'll send the invite to the whole sales org. So. Credibility through data and repetitiveness is sort of my side of the marketing and sales alignment. It's interesting, Shannon will talk about the technology side, which I think is something we're experiencing as well in terms of marketing and sales alignment.
When it comes to, I have one.
Yeah.
Thank you. So systems, marketing ops and sales ops, MOPS and SOPs, that makes it fun, right?
Yeah, I like it.
So when it comes to systems, it naturally brings the two together. So our CRM platform and our marketing automation platform, they're synced one-to-one. What does that mean? Every single record that's in our CRM platform pushes over to our marketing automation platform and vice versa. So those million records, they're syncing all of the time, all day, every day. Again, back to the data. And I talk to somebody in the sales operations org daily, if not multiple people in the sales ops world daily. More than my own mother, actually. But the two systems being aligned is our number one priority. If that sync goes down, if anything happens when it comes to a spam attack or any of that, we have processes in place to contact the heads of state on both of those and get on a call. If these conversations are not already happening in your organization, I would encourage them. I would encourage you, even if it's a team of 2 people, to have those 2 people go out to lunch and just open the lines of communication. Regardless of what tech I'm bringing on from a marketing standpoint, even if there is no manual effort at all by the sales teams, it will have downstream impact. So anything that I bring on, I throw it up against the wall. We both vet the tech, and then we figure out how it's going to impact. We get buy-in, and then we roll it out. We don't skip a step, and then what that does is that opens them for communication with me when they think they're bringing on a sales tool that's not going to impact marketing, when it actually does.
Yeah.
So they'll come to us and we'll do the same thing, same process, same buy-in,
Yeah.
same rollout.
Nice.
Yeah.
So multi-channel campaigns there's a lot of variability with those. And so I want to talk very specifically about the direct mail component of it. So if you were to give advice to someone who was just starting on using direct mail, what would some of that advice be?
I'll take this one. So I got this. I have a bit of a story. The sister story is coming back in. So I am actually a Montana native. I was born and raised in Anaconda, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours west of here. Yeah. So my sister and I were driving over yesterday. I was telling her about this, and first she was like, direct mail, isn't that like 1950s? And I said, it's coming back just like scrunchies and neon. It's coming back. And she kind of got it. And then I realized that her friend's husband actually works at PFL. It is a random small world. Anyway, again, back to your question. So, sitting here and listening to the great speakers before us, they had a lot of great ideas on, how to get started with tactile marketing. I have been working with PFL since 2015, so about 4 years. My take on it is it can be as simple or as complicated as you want. You can do the postcard send. I think there was a team up here talking about postcard sends that is fairly lightweight. Or you can be complicated. We have anywhere between 2 to 3 always on direct mailers, as well as some meeting makers that will that are sort of ad hoc, one time only. So it can be easy or complicated either way, and neither route is right or wrong. And either way, simple steps would be. First, know the why, and it could be just to get in front of people, just to get in people's mailbox, which is completely fine. Know what you're going to measure, and maybe you don't measure at all, and that's also okay. Build a timeline. I'm a huge timeline person. I think it's important, even if it's a short timeline or a small timeline. Most of us work with design teams, content teams, obviously working with PFL, there's a timeline. Have lots of patience. And then I think, the last one would be just understand that it's not a silver bullet, although we are in Montana, and I'm sure there's lots of silver bullets here.
Werewolves.
Yeah. It isn't, but it can be very, very powerful. And I can talk about SDRs and AE processes that we've done offline if you want to go there. But I think it's, keep it simple if you want to, and then grow from there.
Cool, I like that. So I'm going to move off of marketing, and we're going to move into women in leadership, women in tech. As a female leader, it's something I'm very passionate about because I do very much see that we have a gender gap. And whether that's in leadership or whether that's in tech, it's just something that we need to be very aware of and be speaking about. And so I definitely appreciate you guys being here today as my fellow women leaders. I would love to hear your perspectives on why is that gap there? Like, what do we see? What are you guys seeing? Do you have some perspective on why that gap is there? And then any recommendations on how we can help close that gap?
I think, for me, there are two things. I think first and foremost, don't sacrifice who you are. There was a moment in my career, a year or so ago where I was like, I don't look like any of the other executives at Sumo. First, I'm a woman. Second, I like to wear funky shoes. I like to wear jean jackets with enamel pins and Migos on them. I have weird hair, right? I don't see people that look like me. But I didn't change that just because of that, right? So I think for me, first and foremost, don't sacrifice who you are just to be a woman leader. And I also think there's something about, don't second guess, and don't apologize. I think there's a book out there about don't say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I tell the team, don't apologize. You haven't done anything wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's random, natural thing for women to apologize, but don't second guess. We're not going to lose our jobs for making bad decisions, and we're really effing good at what we do, right? I see women out here. I saw women on stage, so believe that because other people do. So that's my take on how. Just how to be a strong woman leader in tech. Don't sacrifice yourself. Don't second guess yourself, and just believe.
I actually read an article not too long ago, and one of the things that we're seeing, even women applying for jobs, men, when they see a job description or a job posting, if they have 50% of the qualifications, they're like, I got this, I can totally do this. Even if they don't meet all of the criteria, they're willing to take that risk. Whereas women, when they see the job description, if they don't meet 100% of the qualifications, they don't feel like they won't apply for the job. So it's just kind of an interesting thing for us to keep in mind is if we see a challenge. I can remember my CEO, Andrew, this was a long time ago, probably 8-10 years ago. I said, hey, I'm ready for a new challenge. I've kind of, the departments that I've been running are running really smoothly. I need some stimulation. And he says, well, go run programming. And I said, no, that's a bad idea. And he said, no, just go run programming. You're fine. You're a people leader. You can do it. And it turns out I was right. It was a bad idea. But the fact of the matter is it's just like, I thought, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'm not going to get fired. I'm just going to take on this challenge. And to this day, I have no regrets that I ran programming. It really helped sculpt that kind of emotional resiliency, I guess, of, just taking on a challenge that you're not really able to do, but realizing that I didn't die from it. So I have some scars, but I love the programming team, by the way. So
yeah, I think Ro has a great perspective on sort of women in tech and being a mom.
Yeah, so I'm a mom, and I have 3 little ones, and it was interesting to see how you kind of evolve from the moment you have a child and all of the stuff you have to shed within yourself to just get, like, these are all things that I'm making up. These are not limiting factors. I'm actually my biggest hurdle many times. So, but then during my, what I say, childbearing years, I don't know. When I was having kids, Sheryl Sandberg came out with the Lean In. And I was constantly trying, I'm like, oh, so you can do it. You can have it all. So I would lean in one side, and then the other side would, like,
Fall
totally
apart.
go. And then I'm, like, leaning on the other side, and then, the kids aren't happy. So I was constantly like, am I being a good mom? Oh my gosh, is Maurina, like, does she think I'm good, doing my job? And so constantly these, like, voices in your head. And it was interesting, I was talking to my husband about this, and he's like, you guys just, like, you constantly, he's like, I never think about that. It's like, I never ask myself, am I being a good dad? Like, I'm like, interesting. So, yeah, I'm like, yeah, maybe. But it was just like a perspective, a shift in how we see things. And I'm like, and he's like, you know what? If you're thinking about that, you're probably doing really, really well as a mom, and you're probably crushing it at work too. So I think we should just give ourselves a break and have that confidence and stop second guessing everything and just go with it.
Tell the voices to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say bye.
You don't do that well on that one? Yeah. Well, you might have other things going on then. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sure. Blockers for women in tech. I go back all the way to when I was a child. In my immediate family, in my immediate surroundings, neither side was in corporate America. And then if I even look at the extended family, forget about tech, just corporate. Extended family, no one there either. So it's kind of like seeing is believing, or seeing is giving you something to aspire to. So there was a void growing up, and look at me, here I am. I followed this career path, which, I mean, I get to be on stage with these incredible women. I work for an incredible company. And I think just by doing that, just by living my life and working with Sumo and working with these women, that's just putting another example out there.
Yeah.
And maybe my niece, maybe my cousin, maybe even my aunt can now look and see, hey, this is completely possible.
It has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last question for our discussion. So if you were to give someone who would be in your similar role one piece of advice, what would it be?
Unicorns?
Helmets. Oompa
Silver
Loompas.
bullets. Were we talking about bullets or like Coors Light? What were we talking about?
Bullets.
Oh,
Oompa
bullets.
Loompas.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I think I'm going to do a couple, but they'll be brief, I promise. Start with analytics. Build a good foundation and start with analytics. Learn who you are as a leader. I think don't sacrifice yourself, and learn the proverbial mic drop.
Can we let her do it?
I don't think they'd like that.
Yeah, it might hurt.
Yeah.
And I wanted to look around and see. Okay, so mine is going to be simple. It's grab a seat at the table. And this applies to men and women, but guys, sorry. This is still a thing where I'm in meetings with leadership, and it's all the guys, the all sitting at the table. And if there is overflow, it typically tends to be the females, except in this room, which is great. But it's don't sit back. Be engaged, be part of the room, be part of the conversation, and believe in yourself.
My advice for somebody in a marketing ops role, I think when I started knocking around in MarTech, Brinker had that infographic that had 150 solutions, right? And since then, it's upwards of 7,000. Mm-hmm. And in an ops role, that can get overwhelming very, very quickly. especially if you're looking at the hottest new trends and trying to report on this new whiz-bang thing, my advice would be to build a strong foundation. Back to the earlier conversation of build a life cycle model, understand where the records lie in your database along their marketing journey. You want to speak to them correctly, and building that foundation is going to give you the opportunity to do that. And when you build that pipeline or that life cycle, that scoring model, that's when you can branch out to these new technologies and plug and play, which from an ops perspective is what makes my role a ton of fun. So.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, I am very honored to be sitting with you guys on stage today. Thank you for allowing me to be the person to have the conversation with you, and I can't wait to get to know you guys better. And that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you.